Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Leilani of Barbados. As you can see now, I work for the press and I have some questions for Meghan Markle. Her new podcast, Confessions of a Female Founder, just dropped today and it's awful. Meg and Whit get together, but not really because they're not in the same room. Again, low effort, it's very low budget. Meghan is definitely getting less money for this. I want to say, as a disclaimer, this could have, would have, should have been a good interview. If Meghan Markle had any kind of self-awareness or interviewing skills, this could have been good because unlike Meghan, Whitney Wolf Heard has taken lemons and made lemonade. That's right. She had a bad experience with her previous company and she turned it into a good business. I must say that it could have, would have been an interesting podcast if Whitney was allowed to just speak naturally. She's a very good speaker. She's obviously got a business plan that she could have discussed with us. But instead, she is highly scripted to compliment. I wouldn't even say compliment, to be honest with you. I would say love bomb Meghan constantly.
I came to your house in a disco cowboy outfit.
Yes, for New Year's Eve.
I was like, how am I going to meet this iconic, elegant, classy couple and I'm wearing a
Meghan in the most beautiful, wonderful couple that she is with Harry. That is the only time that we get any mention of Harry, by the way, which is the only reason why Meghan has got anything in life. She doesn't say who she shows up with because she's not invited. She just shows up as a +1 to somebody else who's invited. And I think it would have been important to say who that person was. Obviously, they can't because they're no longer friends. You know how Meghan do. And it's very difficult for Whitney to get to the point of what we really want to know, how she has started her business and what goes into it as an entrepreneur. Let's just jump right in, shall we? So the podcast first starts out with them talking about how they first met each other. As you go on, you will find out that Meghan basically targeted Whitney because she was the youngest billionaire under a certain age, female, and so on and so forth.
And I'm sure the first time I ever heard about you was in Time magazine, being the youngest self-made billionaire, female billionaire. Huge.
Whitney was in an SH lawsuit with a dating app, and she became the target of the press. In that, everyone talked about her and her lawsuit and so on. And she turned that experience into she's going to start her own app. She did get a good injection of some capital.
long story short, couldn't find any funding, randomly got contacted by my former business partner and investor. He kind of said, listen, I'm all for whatever this is because I can feel your passion, but my one prerequisite is that you got to figure out how to do it in dating.
But the point is that she did have to work very hard to put this app in place. I have a question. Could you let Whitney talk about how she made this app possible? Just let her get to the point. Even Whitney says herself, it took me 25 minutes to get to this point of talking about renaming my company.
The beginning of Merci, which was meant to be the reason why the name. Wow, that was a 25-minute long-winded way of getting to the answer.
I didn't help, by the way, but it's important. It's important background to get back to the why.
It is. And I think ultimately why I was going to call it Merci is I wanted it to be an environment of thanks and gratitude. And thank you in French is merci. I speak French. I just like the name. I thought it was cute. And the currency of the product, the core defining feature of the product was going to be compliments only. No comments, just compliments.
Oh,
and
Question. Was your name changed, Whitney, because you had legal issues of stealing other people's trademarks? Or was your name changed because you just wanted to change it? These are questions we have. Of course, Meghan never lets her answer those questions. So we never get to find out why Whitney changed the name from Merci to Bumble. I would have been very interested to hear that. We want to know a lot more about Whitney in general, but Meghan has to keep inserting. Meghan has scripted Whitney to discuss the things like, why was everyone against Meghan? Whitney just keeps talking about, I was in an airport in Ireland and there was a newsstand and it had every single cover of every single magazine was Meghan Markle.
that's why when I see the way that, you've been treated in the media, which is a magnitude I'll never understand, but my heart breaks for you. I'm like, it's not fair and it's brutalizing. And so
question, Meghan, were those articles written prior to your Oprah interview or after? We get to find out that those articles were written after the interview because Meghan was already in the United States. That would mean that it was after the Oprah interview.
Can I share the story of where I had that revelation when I was walking through the airport in Ireland?
Oh, yes.
Okay, so I stopped through the airport in Ireland and I walked over by whatever their equivalent of like a W.H. Smith or whatever those Hudson
Newsstand.
Yes. And my jaw hit the floor. You were the cover of every single magazine and newspaper in Ireland. And every single one said something different.
Good point that the articles were saying different things, right? Because it wasn't just everyone attacking Meghan.
I mean, random headline. You were the cover of every single one of those magazines, tabloids, and newspapers. And I had this moment where I was like,
and this was a couple of years ago.
Yeah. And I was like, oh my, what? Like, I'm in Ireland. She's back home in California with her kids, like doing school drop off. And she's the front page of every single one of these things. What are they talking about? Like, there's no content. There's nothing to say.
Well, girl, if you haven't done your research, I don't know what to tell you. The reason why anyone would have been concerned about Meghan was because she made up racist allegations against the royal family.
So, I mean, I just had this moment where I was like, wow, this is a different beast. I mean...
But it doesn't feel different, whether it's at that scale or not.
No.
You see, nobody ever cared about Meghan. She had her royal wedding. Yeah, there was something weird about it. A lot of things weird about it, actually. But everyone moved on. It wasn't until Meghan moved over to California and did the Oprah interview where she trashed the royal family that people put her on the cover of magazines. And Ireland was not exempt. Why would it be? Girl, you have been Markled, Whitney. And if you had done some kind of research, you would have realized that was going to happen. I think that if Whitney was able to talk more about her business structure and how she got to where she got to, that would have worked. But because Meghan has no interviewing skills, Meghan, kept interjecting her own stories to, again, explain her mistakes, justify her problems, how hard it was as this privileged woman to do everything. If I were the interviewer, I would have been asking Whitney questions like, okay, for layman's terms, how would you have explained that app process? Whitney did talk about when her stocks crashed, business was failing, and Whitney was like,
our stock hit an all-time low. And I wrote a letter to myself that day and I said, today is one of the best days of my life. I said, because my other buckets of wealth are so overflowing that it just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter what a stock price is today. It's not how I measure my worth.
But what made you in that want to write a letter to yourself? How would that become a part of a practice for you?
I just thought, I better clock in and I better check in because I want to remember this day. I want to remember this day. I want to remember that I got to a place of self-growth where on a day that should feel like the worst day in terms of riding the waves of success, right? Things always go up and down. Mm-hmm. And I just remember I wrote myself a letter and I just said, this is like the best day ever. I have healthy children. I love my husband. It's beautiful where I am. I hiked, I meditated. Like I just reflected in this moment of gratitude of all the things I do have. And I think it's a really good reminder to people that you have to take stock of how you measure your happiness, your wealth, and how you define it.
Take stock in your actual stock.
That's right.
That just means you've made enough money when business is good that you don't have to worry about now that it's crashing. And you can have the best. She was saying she was living her best life when the business was failing. And she was able to hike and live in this beautiful area and look out at the view and meditate and concentrate on her family. Girl, that means you are rich already. Most people, if their business is failing and they're in debt and they have to face complete bankruptcy, their personal life will also not be great, okay? Anyway. But I'm trying to explain to you how these two women are sitting up there acting so unrelatable, but not only to each other, but to the public. And when I say not only to each other, Meghan is harping on the packaging. She's like, I just get so upset about packaging. What can I do to not worry about that?
For example, a month ago, I was absolutely consumed with packaging. Boxes. That's all I could think about. And I would sit there doing the unboxing in my head. Is there tissue paper? What about the packing peanuts? But they're biodegradable. And where does the sticker go? And hold on, what size the box is going to be? And no, that's not going to fit all the SKUs. Oh my gosh. And then someone says, but you don't want to brand the outside of the box because of porch pirates. Had never heard that before. What's a porch pirate?
And Whitney's like, well, girl, you don't have to worry about that. What I worry about is my product. Yeah. So Whitney is more obsessed with her product and how good it is. I know it's the dating app, but she wanted to be kind. She wanted certain things in the dating app to reflect, I don't know, complimentary kindness, whatever the hell it is. She was focused on her product, whereas Meghan was focused on the packaging. And so that was something that stood out to me as well. Another thing that stood out to me is that Meghan Markle did all this just to be called Duchess. That's why this small child has been trained to say Duchess. No child at this age says that. Let's get real.
What is that?
A jam
It's jam
from the Duchess.
from the Duchess.
Yes.
Speaking of children, why does Meghan Markle keep showing other people's children when she won't show her own? Another inconsistency that I'd like to question is Meghan Markle says,
I mean, Lily still naps. She gets picked up early and she naps and she only has a half day in preschool.
Right.
if you actively pick up your child, you say, when I pick up my child from school, it's one or the other. Whitney has said, you were just picking up your child from school when all these people were doing all these articles on you. And I just didn't understand, how is this woman just picking up her children from school? And then she just looking at the people are talking about her. But they try to double down on it in the end because Whitney herself is talking about picking up children from school, doing motherly things whilst being a businesswoman. And these pearls of wisdom from Whitney do get lost with Meghan constantly interjecting her lies. Oh, another revelation, girl.
And we both had preeclampsia.
Oh God,
postpartum
can you believe we
preeclampsia.
both had that? It's so rare.
It's so rare.
And
Why is she laughing about this?
so scary.
It's so scary. And you go, and you're still trying to juggle all of these things, and the world doesn't know what's happening quietly. And in the quiet, you're still trying to show up for people.
Even Whitney's like, that's so rare that we both had it because it's a rare thing to have. Meghan's like, I know. I just made that up. I'm sorry. Either they're very superficial, both of them, or it's not real, because Whitney then says,
I mean, I'll never forget the image of you after you delivered Archie and the whole world was like waiting for his debut. And like I was, either just becoming or about to become a new mom. And I was like, oh my God, how is this woman doing this? Like, how is this woman putting on heels and going and debuting a child in this, beautiful outfit in front of the entire world? Like, I could barely face a doorbell delivery for takeout food,
that is just royal protocol, Whitney. Please don't show your ignorance. In the end, there's a lot of love bombing again. Oh, yes, you're the best, Meghan. I'm so proud of you, Meghan. Proud of you for what? I want to know how much money Meghan is paying these people to come on here and say how proud of her they are when they themselves have struggled and have made a business from the ground up. My conclusion is it's so self-involved. In a way, Meghan manipulates the conversation into being all about, yes, you have to self-love. You have to look after yourself. You have to set boundaries with your staff, girl. You can't just let your staff. And then if you're cheerleading your staff to do your product, the thing you want to do, who's cheerleading you? Meghan says, who's cheerleading you, though? You better be who should cheerlead you to make your own money that you're making? I know that Whitney's trying to talk about self-love in terms of relationships. Another thing that Meghan should have delved into was that Whitney genuinely had some kind of bad relationship in her life that she brought up herself, Whitney did, and she would have probably liked to expand on. But Meghan's not interested in that because Meghan don't want to talk about her relationships, does she? She don't want to talk about it. She was divorced. Talk about what happened with that. No, she doesn't want to. She skips over that. But that would have actually been a relatable thing for people who are using dating apps and who want to find love. But nope, she doesn't let her talk about that. And these are the points that I think, what do I think about the future podcasts? I think the future podcasts are going to be just as crap because I can't imagine that Meghan is going to be able to be aware enough to allow the guests to shine. And the guests are going to be Markled. And anyone else who signs up for this, you have probably I don't know how much time you have, but I would cancel it, girl. I'd be like, look, I saw the first one, and on that grounds, I would like to cancel that I am appearing because it's not going to be a success for me. The numbers are not going to be good. But anyway, that's just my review of it. I'm sorry. I had to listen to this thing and I was so shocked that it was exactly the same as all the other stuff that Meghan does, because I thought the more she comes out with is the more she must have learned. But it doesn't work that way with Meghan. Above all, I think the best advice for Meghan is to just zip it. Don't show any more of your personality. It is unlikable. And the more you show, the more unlikable. Anyway, speaking of liking, if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up. It does help the algorithm. And press the bell notification so you see when I come out with the next episode of Leilani Media, Confessions of a Female Founder with Meghan. And what else you can do? Oh, subscribe to my channel if you like it. I have a lot of videos. Love you. Bye.